32 teams in 32 days. Today, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles. Welcome to a series where we deep dive on every NFL team's offseason from the very beginning, when coaches are being hired, all the way to present day with preseason happening, with one goal: to look ahead to the 2025 season and see how each team will perform. Here's a list of videos that we're going to be dropping for 32 straight days from August 1st to September 1st. I encourage you guys to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date when we drop that specific video on that respective date. Let's kick off this deep dive video with the foundation and the culture of this Eagles, led by head coach Nick Sirianni. Going into his 5th year with the team with a 48-20 record to boast, for a guy that has been ridiculed from the very beginning, from his introductory head coaching press conference when he was introduced as a head coach of the Eagles, all the way to present day because of the swagger or the attitude on the sideline that he has, however you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it, it has helped the Eagles. 6-3 postseason record to boast and 2 Super Bowl appearances with 1 Super Bowl victory. No new changes as far as the defensive coordinator goes. That is still led by Vic Fangio. And for a team that has had a lot of hits defensively in the offseason, and we'll get into that in just a bit, Vic Fangio is still that consistent piece for the Eagles, so we're not too concerned about the Eagles' defense. Offensively, however, head coach of the New Orleans Saints is now Kellen Moore, and in comes Kevin Patullo, getting his first crack as OC in his career. It's still going to be the same mentality for the Eagles. You run a little bit with Jalen Hurts, pass a little bit with him to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, safety net and Dallas Goedert. Saquon Barkley is going to be carrying the ball probably 330, 340 times this season. No new changes as far as the philosophy of the Eagles offense goes. Moving on to the free agency adds and losses, including trades in there as well, because there has been a big trade as far as them acquiring an offensive lineman in Kenyon Green, but getting rid of C.J. Gardner-Johnson. It's not only lopsided as far as the number of losses that they've had, but also the name values of the people that they've lost. Defensively, they took a big hit with Josh Sweat, who's now in Arizona. Brandon Graham announcing his retirement. In the secondary, losing C.J. Gardner-Johnson, trading him away to the Houston Texans. Darius Slay as well. No Darius. Going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Devontae Maddox, James Bradbury. I know he was a backup piece, but a lot of hits that they took defensively in the secondary, and then in the front seven, we mentioned Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, Milton Williams. It is going to be a shift for the Eagles defensively, but this is how the Eagles are designed. They have a roster that can contend for a Super Bowl. They need to fill in 1 or 2 pieces here and there in the starting lineup, but other than that, the way that they approach free agency and the draft, Howie Roseman looks at it as, I'm going to draft people that I feel like could be potential starters in the future, given a retirement like Brandon Graham were to happen, given someone walks away in free agency like Josh Sweat or Milton Williams. Rotational guys that he's drafted the last year or two, Jordan Davis, Nolan Smith. These guys are now going to step into full-time starting roles moving forward. And if you have this philosophy, this mentality, this setup, who's not to say that they don't contend for a Super Bowl year after year? That's why Howie Roseman is looked at as one of, if not the best general manager in all of the NFL, because of the work that he did in free agency and the NFL draft. Jahad Campbell, a future starting linebacker. He could start as early as this season with Nakobe Dean dealing with that torn patella. He was placed on the active/PUP list. If he doesn't get activated by the time the cut deadline were to arrive in late August, then he's going to miss the first 4 games, and in comes Campbell to be that starter. They drafted the safety out of Texas, Andrew Makuba. He could be competing with Sidney Brown right now to be that strong safety after they got rid of C.J. Gardner-Johnson in that trade. I feel like that they would give the nod to Sidney Brown because he's the veteran, but we'll see what happens in the future. Ty Robinson in the 4th round, the defensive tackle. This is expected to be a 3-4 defense, so they have heavy-set guys on that D-line. Jordan Davis, we expect to be that nose tackle up in the middle, but Jalen Carter is going to be a little bit on the outside to his side. And then Moro Ojomo is someone that's going to be competing with that defensive end position. We gave the nod to Ojomo to be that projected starter on that D-line just because of veteran presence. Robinson could be someone that could compete for a starting role with Ojomo, or at least be a rotational piece. Kyle McCord is pretty interesting that they got in the 6th round. So they lost Kenny Pickett, and they acquired Dorian Thompson-Robinson. We expect Tanner McKee to be that backup quarterback for Jalen Hurts just because of the veteran presence. We expect the QB2 to be McKee. McCord and DTR are competing for that QB3 spot. Now let's move on to the projected starters that we have for offense, starting with the quarterback. We just mentioned the quarterback room, Jalen Hurts. You don't see a lot of teams releasing rookies just in the first season or even before the season even begins. DTR might be a cut candidate. Then moving on to the skill position players, Saquon Barkley, key piece for this offense. We expect him to have another big season when we talk about sack projections. Outside receivers, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. I mean, you could also work Smith into the slot as well. But if you look at the depth chart that we have for the receivers, Johnny Wilson is the depth behind A.J. Brown. So Jahan Dotson, we expect to be that starting slot receiver, but Johnny Wilson, if an injury were to occur to Smith or A.J. Brown, Wilson would come in just because of the big build and the big body receiver that he is. But technically, the wide receiver 3 on the team, if you were to say outside of A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who is going to get the most targets in the wide receiver room at least, I would put my money on Jahan Dotson. Dallas Goedert, nothing new about the tight end room outside of Kylan Granson that they added, but we expect him to be the tight end 3. Grant Calcaterra, who was pretty solid in the relief of Goddard when he was injured last year. They do run 12 personnel offense, so Calcaterra we expect to be that tight end 2, opposite of Dallas Goedert. You're going to see Calcaterra and Goddard on the field simultaneously quite often in 2025. That offensive line, as solid as ever, except Mekhi Becton has moved on in free agency. He is now with the LA Chargers. In his place right now, we have Tyler Steen just because of the veteran presence. We wanted to give the veteran the nod. They acquired Kenyon Green through a trade. For someone that was drafted in the first round, pick 15, 2022, his rookie season, I believe PFF ranked him 77th out of 77 starting guards in the NFL in 2022. So for Green, it hasn't worked out, has been injured as well in his career. Who knows? The Eagles are known for taking people into their under the wing and having this resurgence of a season, i.e. Mekhi Becton, someone that was in that starting guard spot. So Kenyon Green, who could be in that starting guard spot, it could be a game changer for him. Let's see what the Eagles do with Green. To the projected starters defensively, the starting defensive line, we expect it to be Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Mario Ujoma, as we mentioned earlier in the video. Then to the linebacker to round off the front 7. Nakobe Dean, we have him listed as the starter right now just because if he were to come back, if he has to miss the first 4 weeks of the season, Jahad Campbell comes in. But after that, it's going to be Nakobe Dean that comes in and is going to be the starter. So I just wanted to go ahead and just put Nakobe Dean down as the starting middle linebacker. Nolan Smith, we mentioned as one of those guys that was a rotational guy. Now Smith comes in as a full-time starter on this Eagles defense. And to finish off the defense, we have the secondary, Quinion Mitchell, excellent rookie season. We expect him to be the starting corner on the outside, opposite of Kelly Ringo. You're going to see one guy's face is not up here, and that is Cooper DeJean. I wanted to give the starting 11 for the defense. So maybe in a 3-3-5, you're going to have DeJean come in to be that nickel cornerback. But as far as a 3-4, which they're going to operate, which is like their base for Vic Fangio, Cooper DeJean is, I don't expect him to be one of the top or the outside corners at least. I don't want to say top 2 corners because it's not 1, 2, 3. It's 3 good corners, but utilizing them in different ways depending on their skill set. He's more than capable to be that starting outside corner if an injury would occur. But for now, we put him down as that nickel back. He's going to be getting a lot of run, however, more than last year. He'll be on the field quite often. And for special teams, Jake Elliott and Braden Mann are going to be the kicker and punter. No new changes there, as solid as ever. Charlie Hewlett is the starting long snapper now after Rick Lovato was their guy last year. Kick returner and punt returner, I have Avery Williams for both. They signed him from the Atlanta Falcons. Last year it was Kenneth Gainwell and Cooper DeJean. Gainwell taking kick returns, DeJean taking punt returns. Gainwell obviously moves on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. DeJean, we expect a bigger role for him in the defense, so they want to kind of press the brake on him in his special teams role. But if an injury were to occur to Avery Williams, then you get to see DeJean and in certain instances get those punt returns. Now stat projections. We're going to talk about quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, starting with the quarterback and Jalen Hurts. This is on par of a typical 17-game season for Hurts. 23-9 is a TD to interception ratio for 3,700 yards passing. He doesn't get the respect that he deserves because people look at the passing numbers. They're like, oh, you don't pass for 4,000 yards. You're not passing it for 30, 35 touchdowns. It's just the way the offense is designed. He doesn't need to pass the ball as often because he's running it 171 freaking times that we project him to run for 718 yards, and thank goodness the tush push lives on another year, because 15 rushing touchdowns is what we have projected for Jalen Hurts. That combo of Jalen Hurts utilizing his legs along with Saquon Barkley will be lethal yet again for the Eagles. 335 rushing attempts for 1,600 yards and 11 rushing touchdowns is what we have projected for Barkley. Now, you're probably looking at this and you're like, why the heck are you not giving Barkley 2,000 yards? I mean, he got that last year in 16 games. Who's not to say he can't break the NFL record this year? He absolutely 100% is more than capable of doing that. But if you watch the Ravens video that we posted a few days ago, we had the same kind of mentality with Derrick Henry, where these seasons, it's so hard to replicate. So we wanted to find a good in between of what his ceiling is and what his floor is. So a typical season with the Eagles, which is just 1 year last season, mixed in with a typical average season that he has with the Giants, just to give us a good idea of where he is as a player, because we still don't know if he's going to be a 2,000-yard rusher every year. We wanted to find a good in between is pretty much what I'm saying. And 1,600 yards rushing and 11 rushing touchdowns, that's still very, very good. As a matter of fact, in my projections, I have Barkley leading the NFL in rushing yards. For wide receivers, I typically do 3 wide receivers when projecting stats for each team. The third guy on the Eagles, it just doesn't really matter. I mean, their passing offense is not really their main thing. And when they do pass it, they have their top 2 guys, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. It just wasn't worth projecting Jahan Dotson. Top 2 guys, A.J. Brown, 145 targets for 95 receptions, 1,400 yards receiving, and 9 receiving touchdowns in my projections. A.J. Brown is 5th in the NFL in receiving yards. That's what I project. And then for Devontae Smith, great season as well. 125 targets, 91 receptions, 1,100 yards receiving, and 8 receiving touchdowns. And to wrap it up, we have tight ends with Dallas Goedert. You could honestly call him the wide receiver 3 in this offense, with 96 receptions or 96 targets, 73 receptions, 840 yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. But that wraps up our stat projections for the Philadelphia Eagles. And to wrap up the video, we have the record projections. Now, what I like to do is I like to give a range, a floor, and a ceiling. I'm not going to say, oh yeah, they're expected to go this record and anything outside of that is wrong. I like to just give a window of this team is going to win somewhere between 9 games and somewhere between 15 games. And that's what I have projected for the Eagles. So at the absolute worst, I still have the Eagles being a winning team. But at 9-8, it's hard to see them win the division with Washington in there, and honestly making the postseason, because the NFC is going to take a step up. The 49ers might be back to where they are. The Falcons, we expect them to compete. Honestly, the Chicago Bears with Ben Johnson as a head coach, Caleb Williams taking a step up. There's so much competition that if you don't win at least 10 games in the NFC, you could be outside looking in. But at the absolute best, you could win 15 games. And this window is determined by what I like to call swing games. So they play a first place schedule, which is tough. But the games that could go back and forth for the Eagles, Washington, we know they're going to play them tough. The Dallas Cowboys, I know we don't expect them to have that good of a record, but to go at least 1-1 with the Eagles, that could happen. The Lions, the Buccaneers, the Buffalo Bills, like these are some pretty tough games that they play. So that's where that window of 9 wins versus 15 wins comes in. But what I expect for them is to go 14-3, closer to their ceiling, that they win the division, they make the postseason, and yes, absolutely, they can contend. And it would not surprise me if they repeated as Super Bowl champions. But if you have any sort of disagreements or agreements with not just the records, the stats, or anything that I said in this video, I encourage you guys to leave a comment down below, and I would love to chat with y'all. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date when we come out with more of these deep dive videos if you are a fan of them. Tomorrow, we have a friend joining us, a co-host, a good buddy of mine, Connor Iverson, who is a Cleveland native, is going to be talking about the Cleveland Browns. With all that said, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you tomorrow.